Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Majors Live, episode 334 here on TMSNX Radio, themajors.net. I am Adam Hernandez. With me, as always, every week is a recuperating Dorf. Dorf, how we doing?
Not too bad. I'm coming off a little bout of the flu, doing a lot better. Still not back to 100%, but I'm good enough to go tonight.
Yeah, because you were obviously not. I wish you would have said something last night. As far as...
Yeah, I know we do another show Tuesday nights for those who don't know, more political based. I realistically know Josh drives in from like 40 minutes, and I didn't make the decision that I wasn't. He drives in from a significant distance, and I didn't want him to waste a trip.
He drives in from like Westland.
Whatever.
It's like 20 minutes tops.
Well, at the same time, I still didn't want him to waste a trip.
Okay. You're such a good guy.
Doing what I can.
But you know what, though? Before we came on tonight, though, there was a little bit of breaking news with the NFL. And it's not on the rundown tonight, but I do want to touch on it because it is pretty significant what the NFL are what they're essentially trying to do. They're in the final stages of it. A couple of things. They are looking to expand the postseason to an extra team per conference. So instead of 6 teams with 2 byes, you will have 7 teams with 1 bye. And the more controversial aspect to this whole new CBA, this is what this is all a part of, is the new CBA. They are obviously looking to add that 17th game. That 17th regular season game. They would cut the preseason down to 3 games, and then they would add that 17th game. Obviously, that is something that the Players Association have been opposed to. Obviously, this brings in a multitude of different concerns, namely around player injury, which the NFL already has a problem with. But those are the 2 big things that we're looking at here in this new CBA. Whether the players, sign off on it or not, who knows? That is still yet to be seen. But those are the 2 big things. More playoff teams obviously equals more money for the NFL in general. Which an interesting note too here. I mean, the NFL is a greedy, bloodthirsty organization. I didn't know this though, that Dorf playoff pay, as it was prior for the 2 bye teams, players didn't receive playoff pay for that. Only the teams.
Oh yeah, there is no. You don't get paid for your bye week there.
Yes, under the new CBA, players would get paid for that bye week. However, there's going to be 2 less teams now participating in that
2
bye
more
week.
teams, you mean? Oh, yeah, 2 less teams participating in bye week, but 4 more teams overall in the playoffs.
Yes, so obviously this is much more feasible monetarily for the NFL, which it was before.
Oh, boo-hoo. They had plenty of money before.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's they had more than enough money before to make this happen, but obviously it looks better for their bottom line than it would have before. Anyways, though, Dorf, your thoughts on these 2 new developments here with the new CBA?
Well, I think this is just negotiating in public. I don't know that this is exactly what they want to do at the end of the day. I know I'm a regular listener to one Pat McAfee. You can catch him. He's syndicated now. Ex-NFL punter. He's syndicated on radio, internet, TV, and a couple other places. His talk show every day here now. He's talked at length about what he thinks if 17 games has to happen, how he thought it would happen. Now, that had nothing to do with the new playoff format. It was dropped down to 2 preseason games, add a second bye week. The season's the same overall length. Essentially prorate everybody, give everybody an extra game check. So don't just, if they signed a $3 million a year contract, don't just divide that amongst 17 games, make it to 13.2 or 3.2 million because it's a game check. So don't cut people's game check size, just add another check. And you think everybody would be happy with that. They'd be willing to go to 17 if they cut back on preseason games by 2, gave them a second bye week, and they'd be willing to do that. I kind of think I understand why there's only one bye week because the NFL never wants to go more than 1 week off your television when it's in season, especially with your home team. At the same time, unless of course they're going to relax the essentially blackouts, the in-season, the in-market only games and the blackouts and stuff like that, the way they broadcast their game, I don't think you're going to see the league buy into this, because at the same time, now all of a sudden your local team isn't on your TV 2 weeks in a 19-week season. That's 2 bye weeks that you have to cover for. And I don't know that will make some ownership groups happy, especially in smaller markets. If you were willing to just, essentially broadcast every game live, where anybody and their brother can watch every game without having to have the red zone package, I understand that's an incredibly lucrative deal between the NFL and DirecTV. For that to exist. But if you were just to broadcast on regular television every game, I think you could get around that, because you know what? Fantasy football takes care of that conundrum for most people, most modern sports fans. You know what? If I can't watch my team play today, I'm going to watch my other team, my fantasy team play today. And I'm going to hop around games and go watch different games here and there to go watch my quarterback. Oh, my quarterback's playing over here, and I got 2 running backs in this game, and my defense is over here. I want to keep track of how they're going. I think you could get around, those issues with loss of fan engagement. The other thing is, I know why they want to add more playoff teams. More games equals more money, but also it makes it easier for teams to still get into the playoffs. There's less, your season's over in week 8.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got a chance for a second wild card, a third and fourth wild card rather in each conference, you're not essentially, the amount of teams that are out of it in the first half of the year shrink to almost none.
So the NFL's essentially covering all their bases then with this. Obviously, fantasy football has been extremely lucrative, and it's something that the NFL has completely embraced. But that's a good point.
Well, now they're also going to have to start really embracing gambling as it becomes more and more legal nationally.
Mm-hmm.
XFL is trying to do that too,
and that they have a team in Las Vegas now. I mean, obviously,
they have a team in Vegas. I think they need to go head over heels into that and kind of monetize the shit out of that too. And you know what? If the players are smart, they try and find a way to make that money on that too.
Well, I mean, that's something that the NFL has always. You could see that they've always been more open to it, especially the way that they've, made it. Almost a requirement to disclose your injury reports heading into the weekend.
True. And I think the players could also, if you somehow guaranteed money or there was some sort of guaranteed minimum percentage or something like that, they'd be willing to go to more games if their checks were fully guaranteed.
I do. I mean, I like that. I mean, I like the two different notions that one Pat McAfee brings up as far as adding that second bye week, and then 2, making all games available, like you said, because
here's another way around it is, you add a second bye week, you expand the active roster size so guys aren't playing exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
How many of these injuries could be prevented if guys weren't just dead? Not to mention, just within a game where you got guys that essentially don't leave the field. They're coming from a college schedule where it's significantly shorter, the competition's lesser, and they're, quite frankly, you can only have 44 guys active in an NFL game. There's 60 that play in any given college game because of just the amount of players you're allowed to have dressed. If you kind of expanded those rosters 3 or 4 spots, it's not like you're going to add 3 or 4 quarterback salaries. You're adding 3 or 4 salaries at the bare minimum. So you're talking $2 million to each team budget. And keep and have everybody you have active. You can have active on game day. There's if your entire roster you can dress. I think that would be another thing that would help prevent or encourage the Players Association to not only is their player pool growing, but at the same time they can protect their guys long term as well, and maybe even bump down the number of years required to vest in the pension fund.
You need. I mean, the players need to push for guaranteed contracts.
Guaranteed deals. I quite honestly, I would if the Players Association was smart. Unfortunately, they still have guys are so much better about this. You hear about all those guys within 2 years of retirement are broke. They're so much better. You hear about it so much better than it is now. But if they need to strike and be like, hey, we ain't coming back to work until contracts are fully guaranteed.
Well, that's the thing too. Is if I'm the players union, I'm telling the owners right now that don't even bring up a 17-game season.
Don't bring up any additions to our schedule without
unless bringing
or
guaranteed
something like
contracts onto the
75% of your contract has to be guaranteed.
They need to do something.
Multi-year contracts.
Yeah, they need to do something though. Just because when you bring up player injuries too, you have to suspect that how many players are withholding or hiding injury just so they can keep on going out there and playing, because there's a lot of players.
Last thing you want to do is develop a reputation as somebody who's fragile.
Exactly. And there's tons of players down roster too that are an injury away from losing their job.
They're not going to get put on
up.
IR. They're not going to get put on IR for the rest of the year and then be back on the team next year. No, it's literally their career if they don't play hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, next guy up. You can't play. Hey, we got the next guy ready to go. And since these contracts aren't guaranteed, hey, no skin off our back.
I don't see any way around that. I really don't. Unless, of course, you make the base contract a 2-year deal. Like, you can't sign guys to 1-year deals. Which, God, the unforeseen consequences of that would be, I don't even want to get into those because those sound terrible. But unless, of course, you're going to fundamentally change the contract structure, I'm sorry. Like, there's no way if I'm a member of the Players Association, I'll allow them to add another game. If anything, I want to go to my guys and I want to cut games.
Yeah. Well, it's something obviously that people are going to be keeping an eye on. To see where this goes, how this ends up shaping the NFL regular season and postseason to come. Because if these are implemented, they are going to be implemented this upcoming season for the 2020 season. So we'll have to stay tuned for that. We are going to go ahead and move on, though. I want to get to this Houston Astros stuff that just won't go away. And it won't go away because, quite frankly, this time around, Rob Manfred won't let it go away. Rob Manfred gave a 45-minute interview to ESPN the other day regarding the sign stealing scandal that has obviously still completely engulfed Major League Baseball. And during this 45-minute interview, Dorf, Rob Manfred has just become one of the biggest just total tool bags in all of sports. He goes on to call the Commissioner's Trophy that goes just to the World Series champion a piece of metal. And he said that taking a title away from the Houston Astros seems like a futile act. This is on top of Manfred dishing out 0 penalty to Astros players that were involved in this. And you just go on. Obviously, this had, huge blowback from players around Major League Baseball. Dodgers third baseman Justin Turner just laid into him, saying, I don't know if the commissioner has ever won anything in his life. Maybe he hasn't. But the reason every guy's in this room, the reason every guy is working out all off season is specifically for that trophy, which, by the way, is called the Commissioner's Trophy. Ironic. So for him to devalue it the way that he did yesterday just tells me how out of touch he is with the players in this game. At this point, the only thing devaluing that trophy is that it says Commissioner on it. Other players that weighed in, Mike Trout the other day, who usually never, ever comes out and
says anything about anything.
Mike Trout is...
You can't even comment about the guy about the weather.
No. Mike Trout says they cheated. I don't agree with the punishments. The players not getting anything. Guys' careers have been affected. I lost respect for some of those guys. Chris Bryant of the Chicago Cubs. I know everybody around the league is really upset because it's a disgrace to the game. I personally think it's worse than steroids. I really do. And then Dodgers... reliever Kenley Jansen said, everybody in the world is laughing at how MLB handled this. What are you going to teach kids out there? You're not going to teach anything. So, I mean, in the comments go on from there. Obviously, those aren't the only 4 players that have weighed in on this, but it is something to take note of when it comes to Rob Manfred. And he has walked back some of those comments, specifically about the World Series trophy, the Commissioner's Trophy. But at this point right now, what has Rob Manfred really done to improve the game of baseball? Because you look at all these different things, Dorf, and Rob Manfred is really coming out of all of this is in a way worse than the Astros, because the guy that is supposed to be enforcing all of this and keeping the integrity of baseball in line has really gone out of his way to diminish it. And this stuff goes well beyond the cheating scandal here. I mean, because right now you have Rob Manfred being at the head of trying to drastically cut what the minor league system is by getting rid of teams and so on and so forth. There's the allegations around the juice balls, a complete lack of respect for winning. And not only that, and we've talked about this before, Dorf, but the growing economic system within baseball itself that essentially encourages losing. I mean, and like I said, this is something that we've mentioned before. The deals that Major League Baseball has signed with, I believe, what do they have? Is it the NHL or MLB that manages the day-to-day video operations or something like that? But I think it's actually the MLB that manages the NHL's video now. But
it's a corporation owned by the MLB.
Yes, but baseball and the teams have come into massive amounts of money, and none of this has transpired down to signing players. I mean, how long was it before Bryce Harper signed, and so on and so forth? And just none of this ends up transcending to larger player salaries across the board. And this is something that ultimately comes back onto Rob Manfred. So, Dorf, has Rob Manfred done anything, all-encompassing, generally speaking, done anything to better the game of baseball?
Well, before I answer that, remember what his background is. What was Rob Manfred's job before this?
He was a lawyer and a businessman.
He was the chief legal counsel for Major League Baseball. His actions entirely speak of shit, minimize legal liability. I don't want to get sued. Because all of a sudden, I bet you're going to hear in the coming days, lawsuits are getting prepped by large Vegas bettors, by individuals that sunk bunches of money on the Astros opponents that, it wasn't a fair thing. Guess what? I should be owed compensation. Mm-hmm. And they're potentially not wrong to admit And it's not only protecting the teams in the league from liability, but at the same time by essentially giving the players a free pass, he's kind of protected them as well. The revenue not growing to player salary pool is an entirely different topic here. Sure. That can be fixed simply by putting a salary floor at a percentage of the luxury tax threshold. Mm-hmm. You got to spend half of it or something like that. So, the Nutting family in Pittsburgh can't get away with spending $45 million on their baseball team this year. Mm-hmm. If this was 2000, that would be an acceptable number, but Jesus fuck. Like there's guys that make 40. Mike Trout makes 40. And the Pittsburgh Pirates collectively make 45. They only have one guy who has a guaranteed contract. It's Chris Archer, and that's it. Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous. But getting back to the topic at hand, I think Rob Manfred, unless of course he was willing to come out and say, "Yep, World Series vacated. We're not giving it to anybody," and he wasn't willing to come out strong enough at the beginning. I think he's kind of set himself up for a no-win situation. The players, I think there's too much that you can't prove without beyond a reasonable doubt about their actions. You can't guarantee just because there's a microphone in the dugout that picks up the bang bang on the trash can. You can't guarantee that individual players heard that on individual pitches because stadiums are loud. You can't guarantee that, Jose Altuve, yes, he was, it seems to really like digging at that collarbone there, that there was anything there other than the guy just has a nervous tick, and maybe that's just what he does.
Which players do.
Which players do. I mean, hell, my favorite, I don't want to call it a nervous tick, but Brandon Inge, every time he put the ball in play, adjusted his cut before he ran on to first base.
Holy shit, do you remember Nomar Garciaparra whenever he went up to bat?
Oh, yeah. And I think a lot of that was, I think Nomar's case, that was just gamesmanship, making the pitcher wait on him. But, at the same time, unless, of course, you can prove all that shit beyond a reasonable doubt, I think it's really, really rough, and really you will win no fans with your employees by dropping the hammer. But at the same time, the idea that, Dodgers fans, give it up. They're not going to vacate the 17 World Series and give it to you.
No, and
you're not going to get the title.
No,
and to some point, Rob Manfred's right. Even if you did make him, cough up the hardware, they're not going to have to cough up the extra money they made from that. They're not going to cough up the contracts that are made from that. They're not going to, yes, they'll give the trophy back, but take the banner down. But everything else, they won that title. He's right. It is just a piece of metal from that perspective. You're not going to take those memories away from their fans and ownership and the money out of their pocket. But at the same time, unless, of course, you were willing to come out and say, all wins from this period to this period where we suspect they're cheating have been vacated until they can prove that they didn't cheat otherwise.
I've always thought that, because obviously this is something that the NCAA undertakes all the time when it comes to punishing programs. They'll take away titles, they'll take away wins. They not only do it at the teams, but they do it at the coaches as well. Joe Paterno vacated a bunch of wins because of the Jerry Sandusky thing. But I think there's something to be said too, just based on how long ago, or how not long ago this was. I think if Rob Manfred came out tomorrow and said, "Hey, you know what? We are the Astros." Didn't win when they win 2017, 2018? It's 2018 that they win?
17.
We don't have a winner. We don't have a 2017 World Series winner.
It might be 18. God, now that I'm thinking about it,
it might 18?
Be 18. I don't know. I'll look it up.
I think it's 18. Whatever. The title that the Astros won is going to be vacated.
It's 17. They had it right the first time.
Okay. They did not win the 2017 World Series. That title has been vacated. There's, as far as the record books go,
Nobody did.
Nobody did. Yep. I think that stings. I think that would hurt. I think that that's. I mean, whatever we see going forward from now. I mean, obviously, time is going to essentially heal all wounds. People are going to forget about it as long as the Astros still stay on the books as the World Series champion for 2017.
I honestly think everybody will
though,
get over this as soon as their opening day happens, because then everybody's going to worry about their own shit. First, finally baseball writers have something to write about in February and March instead of the stereotypical ex-player shows up in the best shape of their life. It's circle jerk story that's written to death every year about, so-and-so's lost some weight. So-and-so looks like he's packed on some muscle. So-and-so promises to bounce back from a down year.
I know how many times do we have to hear about Miguel Cabrera coming back in the best shape of his life?
Well, believe it or not, I actually believe it this time. I've seen some I've actually seen some video. It actually looks like his gut's gone, but he usually puts it all back on by mid-year.
Yeah, it seems like we see that every single year, though. Yeah, but anyways, though, I don't know. I mean, I don't think this goes away that soon, though. I mean,
all you need is somebody having a big week, or major player gets popped for roids or something like that. It'll go away.
Okay, well, a couple of other things here, though. I mean, what does this do to the Astros when it comes to player association? Obviously, Charlie Morton, Dallas Keuchel have done more than what current players on the Astros are doing as far as apologizing for what happened, because those two players were very much a part of.
They're on that team.
They were on the team in question, yes. But what does this do for the Astros going forward as far as, like I said, player association when it comes to getting players to come play for the Astros, whether that be via trade or via free agency? Do you see any type of ramifications transcending down to regular transactions, like I said, whether it be a trade or whether it be free agency?
Absolutely not. Money, time and money heal all wounds, and Jim Crane, the owner of the Astros, has deep pockets, is willing to spend at or above the luxury tax threshold for a winner. If they're willing to dole out enough money, people will stick around and or come to play in Houston because money, money, money.
What about
it will have negative effects, let's put it that way.
Okay, what about the on-the-field ramifications then? Because Dusty Baker, current Houston Astros manager, has come out and said that the MLB needs to take steps in protecting
It looks like the
players.
MLB was actually looking at doing something like that already.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, I think as far as they got was they're just going to start dumping managers. But, not that really hurts anything. But quite honestly, the Astros should just lean into it. And as long as people don't get hurt, be like, all right, cool, free base runner, thank you.
Because it's going to happen. I mean, there's going to be instances this season.
It's one of those, don't make me point to Pete. Does he get on base? Yes.
Oh man, you know what? That's going to be an interesting stat to keep track of. Is the
there's actually betting odds over under number of hit by pitches for the Astros this year, and I think the latest one I saw is 82.5.
Well, I can't wait to see the Astros' their position player on base percentage this year.
Does he get on base?
Yeah. I don't know. This is I don't know, Dorf. What do you think? I mean, because
honestly, if I were the Astros, I'd be like, yeah, I don't like to be hitting, but please put guys on to start innings.
I mean, love it. I mean, generally speaking,
have to throw extra pressure pitches, please bring it on because you're petty. We cheated, we got caught. Too bad, so sad. Get over it. If I was, like a team leader, like a Carlos Correa or something like that, I know. I'm pretty sure Jose Altuve is relatively soft-spoken, but if I was somebody like that, I'm like, yeah, fucking deal with it. We're sorry we got caught, but please plunk me. Put me on. I'll steal second.
What do you think this does, though, for Astros players that leave the organization?
Nothing.
Nothing?
They're still talented enough. I mean, talent heals. I mean, you look at a guy like Aubrey Huff, he got a job until his late 30s, even though he's a fucking cancer.
Who wasn't invited to the
AJ
Giants.
Brzezinski got a job until he was then because even though he's a fucking cancer. Like
AJ Brzezinski got a job on TV too.
Yeah, and quite honestly, he was interesting. I don't know if he's still around or not, but he was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Anyways, though, it's just the story that won't go away. I think it's an interesting story that won't go away. I mean, based on, just Rob Manfred backing himself into a corner and putting his foot in his mouth, and I don't know.
Rob Manfred's bungled the shit out of this.
I think
quite frankly, the whole juice ball thing. So what? Made the game more exciting.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if players can't juice, let's juice the ball.
If that's all it took, fucking sweet. Keep it up. Do it more.
You know what's cool about this, and what's welcoming about it, and this is the thing.
You know what's fun? Strikeouts are fun. Home runs are fun. Know what isn't fun? Grounding out weekly is second. I like juice balls.
You know what's fun about this though? Just because it is sports, and in the grand scheme of things, who gives a shit anyway? Because it is sports. Is that baseball, for how, ever since the steroid thing, which, whatever, I mean, I think you and I are both in agreement that it did make the game better.
Hey, we're on record. Go back to Majors Live, like 150. God. Is that how long ago it was? It might have been even lower than that. But yeah, my debut on the network was defending steroid use in baseball. You know
what, though? But baseball in of itself has been, I guess, too squeaky clean in some regard.
It's never been squeaky clean. Guys have been, batting scandals. You had steroid scandals. You had, hell, guys were taking, quote, greenies. They were essentially on fucking meth.
I'm talking about. I guess I'm talking about because I don't know. I think
you had a guy pitch a game high on LSD.
I agree. I agree with what Chris Bryant said, that this is worse than steroids. I do. Just because
steroids was a league-wide conspiracy, this is one team.
Well, no, because I think that steroids made the game of baseball better. I don't think this makes the game of baseball better. A team cheating, that doesn't make baseball better.
Technically, stealing signs isn't cheating. Using technology to do it is.
No, stealing signs isn't cheating. I mean, teams do it all the time with the,
No, we did that when we were like 10.
I mean, with players, when touching their helmets a certain way, and and catchers going out to let pitchers know they're changing up the signs. Yeah, I mean that shit like that happens all the time. But what the Astros did, obviously that transcends and that goes well beyond, everyday sign stealing. What I like about this, though, what I think makes this all better is that baseball, for how vanilla, maybe that's a better word for all of this, how vanilla it's been since the steroid, era and scandal really, was brought forth by the Mitchell Report, is that we finally have a true villain in all of this. Yeah, people hate the Yankees just because they win all the time. They go out and they spend a bunch of money. But now
Yankees haven't won a World Series in a decade.
Yeah, exactly. But now we have a real villain in all of this. We have the Houston Astros, who I think everybody can get behind and hating for a real purpose now that doesn't have to do with, they win all the time and they spend a bunch of money. So I think that's what's exciting about this. And if I'm the Astros, I embrace that. I embrace the hate. If I'm the Astros, I'm sitting there playing the NWO theme song every single time I take the field. That's what I'm doing.
No, I quite honestly, I think the only thing you can really do is lean into it. I mean, hell, you're going to have some fucking rookie punk trying to make a team when the respect of his clubhouse plunk somebody in spring training, and there's going to be a kerfuffle, and obviously someone's going to get hit in the head probably, and that's unfortunate. But at the same time, thanks for the free base runner, guys. Now we didn't have to work to get this guy here. You put him there on purpose.
You know what we need now? We need Ozzie Guillen back in Major League Baseball.
Oh God, Ozzie Guillen would have been perfect for this. Fuck fucking great, man. Yeah, we cheated. So what? Deal with it. You don't like it? You should have thought of it first. You're just mad you didn't think of it first.
Oh man. Let's continue on though. Final stretch of the show here now. Dorf, what's next for some of these NFL veteran QBs, namely Tom Brady, Phillip Rivers, Drew Brees today? Was it today? I believe it was today. Came out and said
Drew
that
Brees says he's coming back to the Saints.
Yep, he's coming back, and Drew Brees isn't going anywhere but the Saints. But.
Oh, he was going to stay in New Orleans. He was going to ride off into the sunset.
Exactly.
It was Tom Brady. I think is going to flirt with other teams. But he's going to end up back in New England.
That's kind of the feeling I get too.
I think this is just kind of I'm sick of taking team-friendly deals. I'm going to play into my late 40s and bail you out for not having a successor in line, I'm going to make it worth my while, extra worth my while.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just a open flirtation to extort the Kraft family for an ownership stake or something. Phillip Rivers is going to end up in Tampa, Indianapolis, or retirement. He's got Tampa. He just kind of moved his family to Florida. I don't think Miami's looking at adding another veteran QB at this time. They're either going to ride it with Josh Rosen or pick a QB here this next year, who they're going to try and ride it with, or just play the Ryan Fitzpatrick wagon one more time. But he also has a relationship with the offensive staff. Previously coached him. That's currently in Indianapolis. There's a chance that you see him end up there, but with the team, moving his family to Florida, I think that it's Florida, Indianapolis, or staying home. And Jacksonville's not going to sign him. Miami, I don't think would sign him. So it's Tampa, Indy, or bust.
Okay. Yeah, I think that I agree with you. I think it's either for Phillip Rivers, it's going to be, either Miami, Tampa Bay, or Indianapolis. And I'm going to go ahead and go on a limb here and predict that it's going to be Indianapolis that Phillip Rivers signs in.
Yeah, the only reason I think Indianapolis might not make a move at quarterback is then you would have a Jacoby Brissett is a like $15.5 million
backup.
Yeah, backup. Yeah. And that's entirely dead cap if you cut him.
Yeah.
Or move him. That's a lot. I know the Colts have a ton of draft cap space available. That's still a lot to either, hold a clipboard or not play. I think that they might give him one more shot, even though they might take a guy this year too. So anyway, sorry, continue.
The XFL. I don't know if you've caught any games, Dorf.
I have not.
You haven't? It's actually pretty awesome. I mean, some of the rules that they've implemented, they've been trying out, is something that I hope the NFL is taking note with, because unlike the other, the original XFL that came out that was really gimmicky and just trash football.
He ate me.
Yeah, I mean, this is good. It's good football. I mean, some of the stuff that they've implemented, the ability to do 2 forward passes during a play, I think is pretty cool.
As long as the first one is behind the line of scrimmage.
What else do they do? I do like the option to go for 1, 2, or 3 points after a touchdown. I think that's really cool. The only thing that I would
Woody Hayes has a boner in the grave. Why did you go for 2? Because I couldn't go for 3. Well, guess what, Woody? Now you can.
The only thing that I would do different is I
like the kickoff thing.
Oh, the kickoff thing is great. The kickoff thing is awesome. I love that. I think that that's something that I think the NFL should adopt all of these things. If they don't want to do the 2 forward passes, I'm fine with that. But doing the
I don't really think that really changes much. It's just and essentially instead of that little pop pass or whatever you want to call that, where a slot receiver comes running across the formation, and just essentially a tiny little soft chest pass by the QB right off a shotgun snap to him. That's technically a forward pass. All that does is that turns that back into a handoff.
Yeah, I don't know. I like the creativity that it could, that can develop out of it. But NFL adopting the playoff, or not the playoff, but the kickoff, with what they're doing in the XFL regarding that, I think that's something that the NFL should definitely do. I also like the option to go for 1, 2, or 3. Like I said, the only thing that I would do different in that is 1 point is a typical extra point where you try to kick it through the uprights, because that's not what happens in the NFL. I think you get it from like the 5-yard line or something like
it's
that.
It's like the 2, 5, and 10.
Something like that, yeah. Other than that, that's what I would do. I think you brought this up too. It's not something that's in the XFL, but
the onside kick proposal.
Yes, I love that.
4th and 15 from your own 20 or something like that. Get it, you keep the ball.
Yep. I would love to see that. That's not something the XFL is doing. I would like to see them do that.
I think it's something to try it out in preseason.
Oh, sure. I think that would be great, because again.
Well, I mean, at the same time, like if you're essentially legislating out everything that can make an onside kick successful, like overload formations, running starts, being able to pop the ball off the turf, you might as well, if then onside kicks are impossible. You might as well turn it into something, a regular football play, and not make it some sort of, from your 40, you got to take a shot to the end zone. Sure. If you convert it, you get to keep the ball, as long as you don't turn it into something like that.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think there's different aspects here that are, that the XFL is utilizing that is really cool, and I think would work in the NFL. There's other things they do too. They implement some of the college stuff. You only have 2 timeouts, but
running clock too.
Yep, they stop the clock until the ball is set inside of 2 minutes. So I like that. And then they do the 1 foot in bounds.
College rule.
Yep.
But also, I also enjoy the access. It's very interesting. And players are always got to be on their game now. Like, you saw in the first week a guy missed a field goal, and you had Pat McAfee run up to him. So what fucking happened? I fucking missed it, man. Like, leave me alone.
I also like too how they, as far as the access goes, but when they go up and
I saw Matt McGloin essentially say, "This is the worst fucking game plan I've ever been a part of."
Yeah, and he got benched.
The halftime break, he got benched.
Yeah, he got benched. But I like too how they go and they have the camera in on the off the field official doing the replays. And what's great about that is just it seems just like regular people discussing the play. I mean, there's not much
and
difference
about it. It's just
no, it'd be like
this is what we see. This is why we're going the way we're going, and all right.
No, Dorf, it would be like you and I sitting there discussing whether or not it was a catch or he was in bounds or whatever. There's the ref, the on-the-field ref, and then the off-the-field official. They're just sitting there. They're like, I mean, yeah, it looks like he's in bounds. Yeah, okay, I guess, it's a catch. And then they'll relay it down to the field. But that's cool, and how they have the how they have the cameras in on some of the defensive coordinators up in the booth, and what plays they're going to be calling, and I don't know. It's just it's something different. It's something different that isn't gimmicky, and I like it. I think it's cool, and I hope it lasts more than one season. Bottom line.
I thought Vince McMahon said he's got money for 3. They didn't have to make a cent, and he's ready to float it for 3 years. Okay. So
good.
We'll see.
Good.
Hopefully that they're a little bit more financially successful than the AAF or whatever that was in 2019, who folded after 6 weeks.
Yeah, what a joke.
Still haven't paid some of their vendors, never going to.
Yeah. XFL too, it's not in any way financially connected to the WWE also, Vince McMahon.
Two separate corps.
Yep. Vince McMahon started a completely separate company to oversee this. I believe it's called Alpha Entertainment. But Myles Garrett back in the NFL. Dorf, thoughts? Are you cool with it at this point?
Yeah. He hasn't helped himself at all by trying to double down on a claim that, to this point is unfounded.
That Mason Rudolph made a
used a racial slur against him, which is what caused him to blow his top. Sorry, Mason, or not Mason, Myles. Yeah. That just makes you look like a guy you can't control your emotions. I understand the negativity surrounding the alleged word, but at the same time, guess what? Everybody and their brothers now got leverage on you for the rest of your career because they know that you're a reserved guy who will blow your lid at something silly like that.
I think it was Mike Tomlin too, possibly suggesting that Rudolph file a lawsuit against.
He's agent or attorney representing. I believe it's attorney representing Rudolph. I may have I only read it kind of in passing. Has essentially said Myles has opened himself up to some legal liability here, and we'll be looking into that.
Yeah. Whether or not that happens is
expect a lawsuit in the coming days or a statement of apology by Myles Garrett saying, I'm sorry. So.
Yep. And then finally, kind of the anti-MLB here is the UEFA dropped the hammer on Manchester City, getting a 2-year Champions League ban, which is huge. Manchester City, the defending Premier League champions, can't participate in the Champions League, and this all stems from.
I know that's a big financial loss, and that's about all I can say about it because that's all I know.
Yep. They're also handed a 30 million euro fine as well. This comes from the.
What did they do?
Well, this comes from The Guardian. City were found guilty by UEFA's club financial control body of having falsely inflated their sponsorship revenues when they made submissions for the FFP compliance process. The guilty finding follows an investigation sparked by the publication of leaked emails and documents by German magazine Der Spiegel in November of 2018. The leaked emails and documents appear to show City's owner, Sheikh Mansour bin Zayed Al Nahyan of Abu Dhabi's ruling family, was mostly funding the huge $67.5 million annual sponsorship of the City shirt, stadium, and academy by his country's airline, Etihad. One of the leaked emails suggested that only $8 million of that sponsorship in 2015-16 was funded directly by Etihad, and the rest was coming from Mansour's own company vehicle for the ownership of City, the Abu Dhabi United Group. So
what's wrong with that? I guess there's rules and whatnot, but if it's all the same money.
Well,
if I'm understanding that correctly.
Well, I think it's a fairness thing here. Just by the way enough. That this is kind of a conversation I believe that we had a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about soccer in the United States as opposed to soccer in Europe and beyond, but it's different. I mean, obviously, soccer clubs aren't franchises. They really don't have anything to do with a given league aside from
membership.
Exactly. So what they want to try to do here, and I may be completely wrong in all of this, Dorf, but they want to keep a level playing field as much as they possibly can.
There's no such thing as a level playing field in international soccer. Essentially, I mean,
I understand.
You talk about no salary caps and stuff like that. I mean, you had a team essentially I'm forgetting the little team that either won or almost won the English Premier League, essentially had to sell their best players the next year because they were broke.
Leicester City.
Yes, that one.
Which they're up atop the Premier League table right now again. So.
Well, good for them. So, anywho, especially with the relegation system, it's still the haves and the have-nots when it comes to financial resources, and teams have to grow players in order to sell them just to break even. That's the way they make money there. Um, even within the same league, that teams exist not only to harvest talent to be sold, but are also trying to compete for the same championship. I just don't think it works.
But I think, I think that, I mean, you're right when it comes to, not having a level playing field just based off of, some of these teams that we have in here, whether it be Man City or Manchester United, Arsenal, even, in some of the other leagues or leagues as well, whether you're talking about Juventus or Barcelona. I mean, obviously those teams are on a completely different level. In fact, there was discussions about, teams like Arsenal or Juventus or Real
Creating
Madrid
a super league.
going and creating, a super league within Europe. But I guess what the UEFA is trying to do, at least in some regard, is trying to, make it so you don't have just a complete monopoly by some of these larger teams who have these billionaire owners who can go and just, go throw massive amounts of money around to, buy players and, fund whatever it is they want to fund. So,
oh well,
I guess that's what it is. But it's a huge penalty that Man City got. It's
30 million euros. That's not a small number.
No,
that's
30
what?
million,
That's roughly 50 million US dollars.
Yep, 30 million euros, and you gotta wonder of how much money they're going to lose by not being able to compete in the Champions League. Not only that, how many players are going to want to stick around for these 2 years?
Well, if my understanding is correctly, they get paid on a weekly basis, whether they play a game, whether there's games played or not. So I don't think it'll affect their take home.
But still, there's players out there that want to go and compete for a Champions.
That's fair enough.
League title.
The motivations are a little bit different in international soccer than you see here in U.S. domestic sports. So I'll give you that.
Live question of the week, Dorf. Tua has come out. Well, his doctors have actually come out and said that the hip is good. There's not any problems with it. He's not going to do any throwing at the combine. He's not going to have a pro day, and quite frankly, I don't blame him. But is he worth a top 10 pick? Mel Kiper came out the other day with his mock draft.
Mocked him third
to the Lions. Is he worth not just a top 3 pick, but a top 10 pick?
Will Tua Tagovailoa play quarterback in the league? Yes.
Yes, he will.
Coming off an injury, I don't. Here's the thing: he's got lack of a. I mean, yes, he has the arm talent to fit it into tight windows and make all the throws and stuff like that. But goddamn, if I had the elite receiving core that he had in these last couple of years at Alabama, I probably could have been all SEC. I'm not saying that I'm going in the first round of the draft here, but like Jesus Christ, he's going to have 2 guys play wide receiver for him that are going in the top 40 picks here in this draft. Like, it's not even fair. So I'm not discounting his individual talent alone. It's just I'm not sold. First round, yeah. Top 10, especially coming off an injury, I wouldn't want to be the general manager making that pick.
I think he does go top 10. I'm not saying.
I think he still does, though. That's the thing.
I
just wouldn't be the guy to do it.
There's too many teams within that top 10 that need a quarterback, whether you're talking Carolina.
Oh, absolutely.
Whether you're talking Miami. Who was the other one in there,
You got a couple teams that might trade up, too, like Indianapolis or Tampa.
Yeah. And
hell, even New Orleans if they're worried about drafting the QB of the future. Like,
fucking if I'm Bob Quinn and the Lions,
New England.
Yeah, I am leveraging that as much as I possibly can. Fuck, if the Lions can trade back and get another or stay within the top 10, and
I'm okay with the Lions staying and pat and taking Chase Young, but
I don't think Chase Young's going to be there. I still think that Washington takes him at number 2, but
fair enough.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If he's there at 3, then I stand pat and take Chase Young. But if I'm Bob Quinn, Chase Young is gone at 2. Damn, I am trying to trade back.
I wouldn't mind them taking that corner from Ohio State either, Jeff. I believe it's Udoka is how you pronounce it.
Yeah, I could definitely see them doing that too. Anyway, so bitches and badass Dorf. Do you have a bitch? Do you have a badass first?
I have a bitch first. If you're ready to do that, my bitch this week is going to be actually Rob Manfred. You came out with a weak ass response. You're surprised when you've let a one-day controversy. Not the saying that a cheating scandal would ever be a one-day controversy, but you've turned a one-day controversy into a 2-week controversy. You should have came out, dropped a stronger hammer, and then this wouldn't be a, the media would never be satisfied, but at the same time, you wouldn't have essentially a players' rebellion within your ranks saying, shit's weak, if you come out a little bit stronger in the beginning. Here's another thing. I don't know if it's available within the CBA. Void contracts. Take away guys' money. That's what will send a lesson.
Yeah. I agree. I was gonna go with Rob Manfred Dorf.
Sorry.
I'll go ahead and I'll go with the NFL. Trying to add that 17 games, just that 17th game in there. Essentially no strings attached, because I know that's what they would love to do. But these are going to be the same people that are going to sit there bitching and moaning when, their star quarterback, their star running back, or their star wide receiver goes down with an injury in week, and not be able to play the entire season. So I'll go ahead and go with the NFL and their attempts to, just keep adding with this new CBA. Badass though, Dorf. Do you have one?
So it's going to be, yes, I do have one. It's going to be going back in history here. So some math nerds at ESPN did an analysis on the Team USA defeat of the Soviet Union in the Miracle on Ice game in 1980.
1980, yep.
The U.S. had no fucking business winning that game.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they, not only were they just outclassed, it's just like in all the numbers, they essentially got fucking pwned by everything. Like, usually, like, by 3 times the amount of, outplayed by 3 times the amount and still found a way to win. So it's one of those one in, like, several million chances, not several million, but one in, insanely large number of chances that this game would play out in the way it did. And essentially they owned it to goalie Jim Craig just played, like,
he stood on his fucking head.
The game of his life.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this was... the Miracle on Ice was the biggest... I think it was the biggest upset in sports history. Considering we're talking about level playing fields. The Olympics was never a level playing field when it came to that. Not when you have a bunch of college kids...
Well, it was back then. You had to be an amateur to compete in the Olympics. If you had gotten paid for your sport, you couldn't play. So the Soviets got around to that. Oh, it's just the army team. Well, no, all these guys were conscripted, literally just go around the world, play hockey, and kick people's asses. Like,
they were playing together for years.
The U.S. got outplayed. Like, it's insane.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Quality shot attempts. It was like 70-30. 5-on-5 scoring percentage chance, 75-25. It's insane. I encourage people to look at that article on ESPN today.
Interesting note too. The Detroit Red Wings had 2 players that played on both sides of that game on their team at the same time. Do you know who those players were, Dorf?
Slava Fetisov, Igor Larionov, and I don't know the 2 Americans.
Igor Larionov was not on that team.
Was not on that team?
No.
Who was it then?
It was Fetisov.
Yep.
And Mike Ramsey.
Oh, Mike Ramsey. Okay.
Mike Ramsey,
I'm not familiar with Mike Ramsey, so okay. The only reason, quite frankly, I know Fetisov is his Russian 5, so.
Yep. Fetisov, was on that
And quite
team.
frankly, the Russian 5 came to kind of an end because of the car crash there when I was like 6.
Yeah, but what was actually cool about the Russian 5, and it wasn't just Scotty Bowman putting things together. You just want to play the 5 Russians together, but the way that was set up, because lines in the United States and in Canada and everything, I mean, typically you think of a line as being, just your 3 forwards. And then you would have various.
Well, he rolled them
players.
all 5 as a unit.
Oh yeah, that's what they did in Russia. Yeah, you would have a 5-man unit. So a line would consist of your 3 defensemen or your 3 forwards.
Well,
and your 2
that comes
defensemen.
from an era, and I believe the European game at that time, like you only dressed, 18, 9 forwards, 9 defensemen.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. 2 goalies, you only dressed 20 instead of 23 now. So.
My badass is the XFL. I think that they're doing. I think it's awesome. I think it's good football, innovative football, and it's something that I hope the NFL is taking notes on right now because there's, like I said, certain aspects of it that I would like to see transcend to the NFL. I think it's fun, and I think that fun is oftentimes lost on the NFL. So, anyways, though, Dorf, any parting words tonight?
No, good show.
All right. Anyways, though, we will. I believe we're good to come back next week.
I mean, I am on the road for work. There's a small chance that I will not be available, but I do intend on making an appearance from Akron, Ohio.
Ooh,
Woo.
Nice. How come you never go anywhere fun? It's always
Because I work essentially supplying heavy industry. That stuff doesn't happen anywhere fun.
I was gonna say you never go to San Diego or Tampa or anything like that.
I've got to go to Texas a couple times.
Oh, great.
I've had fun.
We're in Texas.
Houston and College Station, where A&M is.
Okay, that's not bad. Whatever. Yeah. That's better than going. Where were you in Iowa or something like that?
Nebraska.
Nebraska. Jesus Christ.
Northern Ontario too. That was fun.
Well, we may see you next week. We may not. Stay tuned for that. But for Dorf, I'm Adam saying bye for now, everybody.